Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's review. If you people have any questions, feel free to type in the chat or just speak up. And I think we have a few players here today, so we can see if there are any live questions. So Chinese opening in this game for black, definitely doable, very playable even in the AI opening. One thing about this first Joseki is typically white will capture here and black plays here, and then white can proceed like this. Capturing is a lot better than connecting because it gives white a clean panuki. So now the eye shape is a lot better. And more importantly, it gives white a lot of more points in the corner. So there's endgame implications here. If you just connect, later basically black can block in Sente. So compared to the other variation here, white might be able to play the monkey drum. So the difference here from this alone is about 3-4 points, about 3 points. And the other thing is, of course, the eye shape. In this situation, white is not exactly alive. So later, for example, if white attacks from here, white is not alive yet. But if white has a clean panuki, then it's almost impossible for black to really threaten this group because white has eye shape for about 3 eyes. So that's important to keep in mind. At some situations, maybe black can extend, but if white just also settle a base, find a base in the bottom, black eventually will need to spend another move on the right side because the aji here is just not great. So white should have panuki'd at 0-2. Okay, so this is another kind of older Joseki. I think typically white will block here and white can continue like so. So black can use the fact that this move is kind of sente to maybe attach here and do something. So that's another option. Or white can maybe just extend and then turn. I think this is also a possible way to continue because later white can play the peep to attack. So when white turns, black has to be careful not to spend too many moves on the left, otherwise the peep could be pretty severe. So for example, maybe white can jump here, and then black try to fix this shape, then white can pincer. Playing the Kasumi is similar. I would say at this point, it might be worthwhile for black to just still save this stone first. If white try to take away the base, for the time being, black will be okay because black can escape out from here. And because the stone is at b4, not b5, well, black's 3 stone on the left is under less pressure. Yeah, so here black maybe tries to find profit on the outside first, but that's putting the corner in danger. So even if white extends again, it's kind of hard for black to escape from here at this point because white can most likely seal black in. Here, if white cannot seal, then white can also play in the game situation. So maybe here, black can still barely escape. So I would say white made the right call by blocking. Black got a few stones on the left, but we have to remember it started out with a double Kakari. So black is not really down any stones. So white is not down any stones here. And in this shape, it seems like white's getting most of the profit. Getting a few stones from c7 to f7 is really not that profitable. Yeah, so I think white maybe was overthinking. I think just Hane would be fine. Double Hane doesn't really work. There's nothing here. So most likely black will extend and white can push again. And you can see the bottom territory is very large. Now white can maybe even get sente. If black tenuki at this point, then white can still expand the bottom. Maybe not right now, but extending at h6 is always a good move. Even if, let's say, black tenuki now, Hane here would still be pretty valuable. So white will seems like from here to here about 40 points. The bottom will have close to 50 points. I think white's bottom will be a lot more solid than black's right side. And one thing to note is the shape on the left. Black is not as thick as it looks because this wall really has no base. So if white can somehow live here, for example, then this group could be floating. So it's not quite a fair trade. Yeah, so I'll say white has a slight advantage here. And this move is just not as efficient as a g5. Okay, so kind of a complicated fight here. I think if white wants to pincer, typically the one space low is best, because in a lot of situations, white can transition to the left side. For example, this is a common Joseki. Maybe black will extend and then white can continue. So this is one Joseki. If black tries to play here, white can capture. And now white can take sente here. So there's still a little aji on the left. And maybe white can continue to, on the right side first. One thing to understand is the shapes on like the left side is not as big as it looks as long as it doesn't connect to the center. So if white can really just limit black to around territory around here, and rather than allowing both groups to connect, this is really pretty manageable. Because this is in the neighborhood of 20, at most 30 points, if blacks maybe spend another move. And white already got sente in the top left. So that's almost 10 points a corner. And of course, white profited a lot in the bottom left corner. And if the left side is black's territory, white can get a very nice sente endgame here. This by itself is worth more than a komi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is worth 8, 9 points. In sente. So giving black some territory on the left is really not the worst idea for white. And by pincering here, if black still tries to fight, white will have more room to maneuver. Yeah, this move seems like it's harder to make a base, and there's not a clear follow-up. So when we try to make plays, we play moves, we want to always have a follow-up, aim at something. Ideally have 2 follow-ups so your opponent cannot fully take away your follow-ups. Kasumi, I would say it's definitely a slow move. I think black can just jump normally, or maybe play here and start a fight. So black has some thickness on the right. In this game, black definitely needs to do something, launch an attack. And because white kind of play in the middle of nowhere, now this framework is very large. White cannot sacrifice d12. Whereas before, black can only have maybe up this much. In this situation, black already profit in the corner. So then white really has to save d12. So as far as direction-wise, white should definitely go in towards the center instead of trying to find a base here. And one of the reasons is that it's hard for white to really settle on the left. As we can see that when the left side was black's territory, white had a few decent moves here. So this is almost like almost a 10-point game. So if the left side, on the other hand, is more like white's small base, let's say white lives here, then this endgame is lost forever. So it's almost like white takes a, let's say, 3-4 point loss immediately. And we can notice here too, white can only choose between the corner and the side. So essentially, both groups will basically fight, being in conflict with each other. So neither group can have a nice territory or have high stone efficiency. So this is a situation we don't want. Now, if black tries to seal the center, this will be fairly valuable because that will have synergy with the right side. So for example, later, if white tries to live around here and black seals the center, then the center is almost completely sealed. And this white only has 3 stones on the top. It's not hard to imagine a situation where white live with, let's say, 5-6 points on the left and maybe like another 5 points on the right. But all black needs to do is really to invade, and all of a sudden white's very thin overall, and white can definitely live, but black can profit more, and then all of a sudden black can get 30-40 points in the center, and that will completely negate whatever white gains on the left and whatever white might gain on the right. And if white doesn't go in to the right side because white is afraid of the center, then essentially black can just protect all the side territory without really spending a move. So that's also very valuable. So to summarize the left side, the last thing we want to do is really to invade a territory only to create another moyo for your opponent. So that's why white should just jump to the center. It will be different if there's not an easy way for black to seal off the center, or if there's no moyo on the right side for black. But in this game, white really has to go toward the center. And as long as white can achieve that, then this group will still be somewhat weak. And of course, these 2 stones is not alive. They are not alive yet. Yeah, so as mentioned before, black should attack from the above to take basically to punish white's directional mistake. Yeah, so black used Tetsuji to separate 2 stones. I think this is a success for black. Yeah, so white didn't really get much here, and now the 2 stones are basically almost dead, and white end up with Gote. Right, and black made a really nice move by playing c17 immediately. If black doesn't play, I think it's quite possible white will play here as a reverse sente or even double sente. I would say even here, there's reason to think black should play even more proactively to attach a corner. The cut for now is not as severe because white can't really fight, and there's still a move in the corner. So if white plays here, maybe white can save part of it, but black can just transition to the corner. So in this case, black still comes out ahead. So Kosumi is Tiger's Mouth here is a little bit slow. Okay, so here the clamp is overzealous for black. Black just needs to play a simple move, and now white has an obvious weakness. White most likely has to respond, whether here or if white's very greedy here. But if white extends, black can invade. But that's also bad Aji. So most of the time white will play here, and then black can come back to the Hane Connect. Or other options, maybe just expanding the right side. But honestly, at this stage of the game, moves like this will be quite valuable. This is close to 30 points. Yeah, so now this still leaves a very big move for white. So the move exchanging the top left don't necessarily help black actually. Okay, so black made the right directional play by playing the corner. A lot of people will tend to want to expand the side or just the moyo, but if that allows your opponent to take away the corner, usually it's not as big. I would say in this case, it's possible to expand in the center. Because if white tries to live in the corner, that will also damage the upper side. So there could be some weaknesses here. For example, like if black invades, and black can also profit around here. So both directions are possible. But it's hard to go wrong playing from the corner. Right, so even white responded. So responding, I would say, is a slow move. at this point, the game is relatively close, so white should still try to play proactively. It's not like white is up by 20 points and can afford to slack off. Tiger's mouth is definitely big, but right now I think it would be a good time to make some probing move if white invade here. If black tries to, let's say, cap, white should be able to find two eyes on the side. And right now, it doesn't help black to get a wall because white can escape, enter the center from here and from here. So getting a wall in the center wouldn't help black. So black will probably play from the corner one way or another. And this is already a beneficial exchange. Now, if white comes back to the top, this will leave a lot of aji. So if black plays a move here, like here, white can at the very least get a cente reduction in the center. And white can also try to maybe settle, find a base on the right. For example, something like this. This is another way. So now white destroys some territory. Now that black has spent another move, invading will be much more challenging. It's possible that, for example, if black just plays this move, there wouldn't be an easy way for white to live. I think here, the placement could be potentially slightly improved. For example, if black plays this way. Here, this still leaves some weaknesses. I'll say maybe this move. Or black, honestly, the most greedy move would be playing the bottom, because playing here creates additional cente moves. Now maybe all of a sudden black has a lot of potential here. I'll fast forward a little bit to see if there's any notable mid-game problems. So I think the core problem is that the bottom group died. Right, and nothing will happen there. Okay, so I'll focus the rest of the review in the bottom shape. White played this move is probably worth 20, maybe even more points. So it's very, very big. But probably still better to play the turn here, because this reduces all the center of influence and it potentially increases white's potential in the bottom. So it's kind of like you reduce your opponent while expanding your own. So this move is the most urgent. Yeah, and black responded. It's definitely very big, but it still feels slow to respond. I think this is the type of situation where you really don't want to spend moves responding. When black plays here, white can still later play Hane Connect, maybe even capture could be Sente. So black is protecting maybe 15 points. And at this stage of the game, I think there's still a lot of moves bigger than 15 points. Unless black is afraid maybe white can get some sort of Sente. So block might be possible. So maybe black will play Kosumi. This is not exactly a save because black can still separate white. The connection here is not perfect. So on the other hand, if the descent is really Sente, if we can go back maybe one step, if this move is really Sente for white, if black has to respond, then I would say instead of playing the Keima here, black should just descend. Not only is it worth 20 plus points, next move black can invade. And some people might be shocked that the extension here is worth 20 plus, but this is easy to underestimate. Because when black plays a move, all of this becomes territory. So the territory changes, from black's perspective, more than 10 points. And when white plays this move, it has clear follow-up to save 2 stones, or at the very least, all of this becomes territory. And white doesn't have to spend a move fixing here. So if you go through the math, it should be more than 20. And now coming back to the bottom, white got Sente to make a reduction. and then black played here. This is a nice move to kind of exploit the weakness and maybe set up the push cut. So I think directionally it's good, but maybe it's just a little bit too ambitious. Maybe black should play moves around here first, or the shoulder hit. Yeah, so here is probably the shape issue. Black really just needs to jump. Even if white captured this stone, it doesn't really matter. That stone is not very big, and black now has a group to attack, and black can come into the bottom. We can notice that black probably profited 20 points from moves 5 to 9, and white only got maybe 5 points. And if white runs out here, notice white is not alive yet as well for this big group. So white probably doesn't have time to make moves like this. I think the focus here should be reducing the center. So maybe a Kasumi will be appropriate. Yeah, and with here and then a few reading issues, the whole group died. The losing move I would say is a crosscut. If black extends here, this group should still be okay. Because black can cut, white's still quite weak in the center. Yeah, white still has a lot of liberty shortage. I think it would be pretty risky for white to play. Maybe white cannot extend at 4. White will have to save this group, and then black can come out easily. So black had a decent position. It just black just collapsed after the crosscut, allowing white to panuki. So I think it's kind of a unfortunate loss for black. Yeah, and after the bottom died, I think there's really nothing too notable. If players have questions, I'm happy to go over them, or I can cover them at the end too. If not, I'll just move on to the second game. Okay, so this game played to the end. Let's see. So on the empty board, black plays 3-4. White plays the, I think this is the 3-5. If you run AI analysis, I think 3-3 typically gives the best evaluation, but that's a very minor thing. First thing to note is on an empty board, it's typically not recommended to push the third one or the second time, because it gives white a very strong wall. The idea is if you push a few times, you reduce the value of this side, so you can tenuki. And typically when you tenuki, you go to the top upper side. But right now on the empty board, no matter how many times you push, coming down will be pretty big for white. So typically it's not worthwhile, especially if there's no synergy. If the left side is very flat, there's no potential, then black can consider playing like this. So a situation I can think of is, for example, now black can consider pushing again, because if black push twice and then tenuki and white blocks, this really, it's very hard for white to build from this position because white is so flat. Even if white play another move, this is not very big. Black can still easily reduce from the top. Yeah, this area is not that big. Okay, so the other mistake is this turn. Yeah, so this is straight up just inferior to the normal Joseki, whether black jumps or the Keima. Keima is also fine. Fewer forcing moves for white. The push is just an Ajikeshi, and now when white blocks, the corner is still quite small. If white blocks again, it's almost sente against the corner because white has a powerful ko to attack the corner. There's really not much what black can do to prevent this ko. So blocking will be very big. It's almost sente, and if black has to respond, then the upper side is also white's sphere of influence. Yeah, so another kind of rare choice. I think we all know this Joseki. In this game, I would say white would be happy playing this Joseki because the synergy on the left is pretty nice. And white can, whether it's to block here or to Tenuki again. Black only has 20 points or so on the corner. It's not nothing, but white shape on the outside is very, very perfect. Now black plays a Hane. I think white can just turn, and then while Tenuki here will be okay, or if white wants to seal from the top. This way white has a very strong wall, and later connecting could be sente too. So black took 2 corners, but the corner territory is not that big. And the most important thing is white has very strong and efficient wall. It's not like there's much agi or weakness for black to exploit. I think white can just play Keima here. White's not too worried about the cut. White can definitely fight. If black cuts here, white can just sacrifice 2 stones. Yeah, so came out just a stronger move. Okay. So it looks like white is pretty well studied in Joseki. Yeah, this descent is nice. If black plays here, white can push out. And if black plays here, this is the AI recommended variation. And now maybe white will transition to territory, or yeah, probably the 3-3, I would say. And later still block will be big, or then a move. Another possibility is just another move in the center. So descent is definitely a decent choice. Black plays here. It's a strong attack, but right now black is just too weak on the there's no synergy for that. Notice typically black will have to extend, but then white can invade. Black has the intention of attacking white, but the end result is such that black is much weaker because white has a wall on the upper left. Even locally, this fight wouldn't favor black. Yeah, so I think white played really well here. This just guaranteed a sente on the top. It loses a little bit of points, but the double Hane on the right is so important that the small loss on the top is really not a big deal. So now black end up with only 3 points. So there seems to be some sacrifice strategy involved. Oh wow. Yeah, so at this point black already completely collapsed because all of this died. I would say white in this game play at a very, very high level. Even seeing the Hane here. At this point black cannot block. Black has to maybe play here or here, because connecting is essentially sente. So black has to treat the situation shape as something like this, in which case, of course, falling back is the only option. In the top, it looks like black successfully captured 3 stones, but in reality, white still gained quite a bit, because white can basically capture the tail. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 6 stones are effectively dead. And in the capturing race here, black is only up by 1 liberty. So in fact, even the P19 zones can be captured anytime. In summary, on the top, white captured more zones than black, which is not what it appeared at first glance. Yeah, so the fight starting from this invasion, there's basically, yeah, this is almost like a pincer, because if white can attack or split black, then neither side has a solid base. And of course, this is also a ladder breaker. And notice here what black fixed this way, but if black knew about the Hane Aji, definitely the bamboo would have been better. So this is typically a better move because it eliminated the possibility of giving your opponent a Sente Hane. Or maybe the worst is your opponent Hane and then make a Ko. This Aji is quite annoying. White doesn't lose much from it, but white can potentially gain a lot. And whether it's from the attacking the corner or the side. So in the similar shapes as this, bamboo is typically the best move. I'm quite amazed that white almost have no notable, pretty much no mistakes that I can really see. I think the only move maybe is potentially here. Black definitely should have connected here. And now white will have some issues on the outside. Atari and then cut. There's a cutting point here. White has some liberty shortage issues. And actually even connecting at 2. Right, it works for the time being, but white's Aji around here is not great. So white capture 4 zone, but the center groups of zone become very weak. So at this point, white definitely needs to turn here. It's unlikely for black to get Atari to cut from here because white can. I think the top there should be some issues. Maybe, yeah, white can just capture. Right, it looks like white is ahead in this capturing race. So black can only capture from here, and white can connect in Sente. And black is in trouble here. So potentially white misclicked, I can almost see that. Because giving black this connection is just very devastating. But otherwise, I would say white played a perfect game. Yeah, I think the rest is probably not as important. I will move on to the last game, unless you have questions about this game. Oh wow, this is a quick one. So it seems like something happened in the upper right, so we'll focus our attention there. So straightforward, just Joseki stuff. Fuseki. The opening part is pretty uneventful. Okay, so here is starting the problem. So black playing the Hane, it's the reasonable move, expand the upper side. White's Hane here, I would say, is the first problem. Because it makes the situation heavy for white. And there's still not a follow-up. So white should only play the Hane. For example, if the upper side, if white has some stone in the center, and now white can Hane and, for example, let's say invade here, and then now put the L16 stone in a lot of pressure. But right now, white doesn't really want to invade over there because black is stronger locally. If white wants to reduce that area, later white can just play a monkey jump. There's almost no territory there. So white should focus on taking care of the group on the top right. So for example, this is a classic follow-up. I think now it's very appropriate. Just profit a little bit in the corner first. Whether black plays here or white black plays there. Yeah, this is one potential follow-up. So white lived in the corner in Sente, and now both have basically one Greek group. And here, potentially, white can also tenuki. But because I think the rest of the board is not as super urgent, white can probably just continue locally, whether invade or even just jump. This is a nice way to split the corner. If black plays here, white can preserve the Sente, the tiger's mouth. If black protects here, white can descend. And now the corner is gone. If black blocks, then white can go all the way to k17. So if black responds here, white can just tenuki already. There's not a good way for black to attack this group anymore. And the corner is reduced in Sente. Okay, so no issues here from black. So white traded this double panuki to cut off this stone. I would say it's not very worth it because now black is super strong. And in the upper side, black still has a lot. The stone is not dead yet, as we can see. Black had to use a very nice setup, Hane Kosumi, Hane Tiger's Mouth. So that creates Miai of 2 connections. Yeah, so the slight issue for black, I think black can just Kosumi here. There's no need to push first because that creates unnecessary liberty shortage. For example, if black pushes first and white push now, it's hard for black to block because of this issue. But without that exchange, black can definitely block. White pushes here, what black can connect. It's like if white cuts here, black wouldn't want to make this suicide because then this allows white to live in one move. Yeah, notice in this situation, white is still locally dead. So that's a very important distinction. There's no way for white to make 2 eyes in the top. So by pushing first, black may in fact end up helping white. Okay, so white played a stronger move, but black's reading is good. So there's really nothing white can do here. Okay, so issue for inaccuracy for black. Black should turn. Because if black Atari this way, white can get S18 Sente, which might give white an eye. So white wouldn't play here immediately, but that Sente could become important. I would say at this point it's important for white to think about other ways out, maybe blocking. I think this is the opportunity to sacrifice a corner and then transition to the right side. So white took some losses, but being able to cut off R14 is still a win. It's still a game. I'll say overall, black probably would rather not kill the corner. For example, if black just play here, it might be harder for white to continue. Because if white connects here, I think, oh actually no, so black can connect. So at this point, white can Hane here. So it's hard for black to do anything in the corner. But the other option, so maybe this is a good move. I'm trying to think if black has other options, but it seems like it's hard. It seems like cutting is the best follow-up for black. So white's wedge is actually a good counter to black's premature push, because this can lead up could set up the sacrifice variation. But unfortunately, white wasn't flexible enough and continued playing the corner. So that wedge and Hane ended up losing points. White would be better off, honestly, to just play here. Black can push, and black will most likely play here, and in which case, white can, at the very least, maybe just play here. Now, if black extend, white can capture 2 zones, and this is a live shape. So it wouldn't be hard for white to find 2 guys here, because black has some liberty shortage issues. Yeah, these Atari look nice, but it critically destroyed one eye for white in the corner. It's important to save your sente moves in sabaki when playing sabaki, doing sabaki, as much as possible, because you never know which way you might play. White might use this Atari to secure a connection in the center, but white might also choose to play here to get an eye in the corner. So the best way is really to leave it and continue as if you can have, because white has access to both. So in the end, white made Atari 2 exchanges and then basically escape to the center. White can skip those 2 exchanges and just play here directly. This will make no difference. If black turned here, then white can still have the center Atari. And if black tries to attack from here, later white can still have that eye in the corner. So I think these 2 Atari definitely contribute to white's demise here. Oh. Right, so then the whole group died. Seems like at this point white is still, at least the game is still playable, but white can or have to connect from here and allow black to push cut one way or another, potentially here. It's a little painful, but white can definitely still continue. Maybe white's worried about cutting from the outside. Looks possible, but at the very least, white will have a fighting chance, because white can push here, and locally black is still not alive. It's possible there's at least some semi-eye. Black will have to be careful. In the game, white played Kosumi, and the group just immediately dies, and now white collapsed. I think here another option for black is start with the peep and extend. It's hard for white to block because black can just Hane immediately. Now white is under a lot of pressure. Maybe black can even block and Hane directly. And notice on the top here, black is all connected. There could be some liberty shortage here, so maybe the connection will be Sente, but otherwise black is connected. So even if black doesn't necessarily want to cut right away, this takes away the eye, and then now black can play something on the right side, and then continue to attack white center group. Playing here is similar, but it does involve potentially more risk if white can block here, for example. Maybe this will become the same thing. But sometimes when you play this peep, you don't play the peep at N15 first, it's possible for your opponent to sacrifice. Because notice the N14 and N13 exchange is typically good for white. But in this game, it's not really a problem. So black still has the upper hand in the attack. At this point, white should recognize the issue here, is that P Vicente. So white should keep that in mind. And if white can just picture Peep here, then a move like here, where maybe the Keima would be more appropriate. Now this is Sente, black will have to defend, do something in the corner, and white can completely fix the outside. Black will probably end up killing the upper group, but then white will have Sente. White does still have the upper left or the bottom left territory. So I think the game is a little better for black, but white still has a good shot. Yeah, in the game, I think white wasn't aware of his weakness, and this ultimately caused a big group to die. And this is still very early, so maybe last point I would bring up is maybe address how we should handle this when something goes terribly wrong and we're hopelessly behind. So right now, obviously, white is behind because the group died. But black, it's not like black played a perfect game. At this point, the appropriate move would be to extend. This will increase liberty by a lot. And it also aims at potentially push cut on the right side. So how do we do damage control and still maximize our last glimmer of hope? In the game, white basically played a few Atari moves and then just resigned. But if this is a very serious tournament game, we don't want to resign and move 80, right? So at this point, we should think the upper right is dead, but it has a good amount of liberties. 1, 2, 3, it has 6 liberties. So if white can somehow force black to capture back and then develop the rest of the board, that would be white's win condition. And now considering that the center group is pretty short on liberties, there's definitely something for white to work with. So for example, Atari and then play here. There's no easy way for black to capture this white group. So black will probably end up playing moves like this, or maybe Kasumi. And white can just keep running out. And if black, let's say, end up escaping, doing something like this, white can have a final gamble by potentially attacking the bottom. And if through some exchanges black made a mistake or allow you to complicate the game, maybe white can end up separating this group and force a liberty race against the corner. That will immediately turn the game around because white will gain some moves on the outside. In exchange, black will basically play Dame on the inside and fill black's own territory. A lot of times, even when a big group dies, your opponent, you can reverse the game through forcing your opponent to capture back. If your opponent's too careless or complacent, that can happen. Yeah, so at this point, there's not much for white to do because honestly, white's liberty is even tighter than black. And if even this group is captured, then black has no weaknesses, and there's no way for white to conceivably make enough points to cover the losses in the top. So white's last hope is definitely at least to save this group one way or another. I would say Atari is best just because it reduces black's liberty. And typically when there's liberty shortage, it's easier to make mistakes. Do people have any questions? If players are here, I can cover any shape in more detail. Otherwise, I'll be happy to just wrap it up here as well.
I did have, I guess, a small question. About this game. I'm white in this game. Around.
All right, I think I'll conclude the review here. Thank you all for attending or watching this recording.